Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's Daf Hayomi Maseches CHULLIN Daf Samach Ches. We begin a brand new parak, the fourth parak. It is called Beima Makasha. Now it deals primarily with the halacha of Ben Pekua. Ben Pekua, Pekua means birth, so it means an unborn animal found inside the mother animal after it was slaughtered. So the halacha is, we're going to see later on, tomorrow, we'll see it's based on a pasuk, behema ba behema. So if you find a behema within another animal which had undergone shechita, then that newly discovered unborn animal is exempt from shechita, can be consumed without shechita. Now according to some Rishonim, there's no din of Ever Nachai, you can just pick off a piece, but according to others, you first have to terminate its life in some manner. Now, perhaps according to all, it would be an issue of tzar balachai. But in any case, we're speaking in terms of strictly in terms of shechita requirements. The ben pekua does not require shechita. Now, according to Rav Meir, by the way, it depends if it's a full term. If it's a full term animal in there, fully developed, then in that case it's not exempt through the mother's shechita. That exemption, halacha only applies if it's not fully developed. Okay, in any case, let's work with a ben pekua that is mutter through shechita of the mother. Now what happened? Behema hamakasha, kishoy is having hardship, meaning it's during labor. Hamakasha labor. So the mother animal is experiencing labor. V'hoitzia ubar, now the ubar, the unborn, getting a little antsy in there, and he decides to stick his hand out with some, fresh air. V'hoitzia ubar es yadai. So the newborn, the unborn, sticks his hand outside of the mother, and brings it back in. Mutar ba'achili, you can still eat it. In the Gemara, we're going to have a machlokes actually in terms of what the Mishnah had in mind. Meaning, the rest of the newborn, of course, is mutar, because this extension of his hand does not affect his entirety. The question, however, is, what about the hand itself? Yeah, it left the mother, but it came back in, and it was inside the mother during the shechita of the mother. What is the status of that hand? According to some, it's mutar. According to others, no, once it left the area, it gained its own independence. In fact, it's like a treifa. It becomes like Ever Nachai, and it can't really benefit from the mother's shechita. It stays permanently asr. We'll see that in the Gemara. So the first halacha is where only the hand left the mother, but the rest of the ubar remained inside, remained in its unborn status. Next halacha, hoitzi es roishay. However, if he stuck his head out, that accounts for an act of birth. That's like it was already birthed, because the head is the primary of the whole thing. Even though he brought it back into the mother, and it was inside during the mother's shechita, hareza kiyalud. It's as though he was already born, in which case, Rashi says, Suloi mahani le'shchitas imoy. The mother animal, shechita, does not impact him anymore. He needs his own shechita. Okay, so halacha number one, a hand went out and came back in. It's still considered unborn. But if the head went out and came back in, it's already considered born. Concludes the Mishnah. A fellow decides to stick his hand in and detach some limbs of the ubar. Ubar is the unborn animal within the mother animal. Within the mother's womb. And it remained inside during the mother's shechita. Mutar b'achila. It is also going to be covered by the mother's shechita, and you can eat it. However, if one detaches from the mother animal itself and leaves it inside during shechita, minat choyle, from its spleen, its kidneys, And the Mishnah picks specifically these because even when these are detached and missing, as we learned back in Elu Treifos, the most recent parak, they will not render the mother a treifa. That's why the Mishnah specifically related to these two organs. Minat chol, minat klois, he detached those from within the mother and left them inside. Asr ba'achila. Even though they were inside during the mother's shechita, they will not benefit from the mother's shechita. They're Eiver ben Achai, a limb of a live animal. So Zaklal, this is the rule. Davar shagufa asr. Something which was detached from the mother animal itself, and even though it remained inside during shechita, it's asr. Because once it was stamped as Eiver ben Achai, it remains that way permanently. It's irreversible. V'she'enu gufa mutar, but if something which is not of the mother animal itself, for instance, the ubar, or something detached from the ubar, that's sort of enveloped in the mother and it's just covered by anything the mother experiences, meaning the shechita of the mother exempts that as well. Amar Vida Marav, back to the first halacha. The ubar stuck his hand out and brought it back in. Mishnah says, mutar ba'achil, it's permissible. Amar Yehuda, he quotes Amar Rav, ve'ever atzmai asr. Yeah, that's good for the rest of the ubar who remained inside, but the aver itself, the limb itself, the hand that had come out would be asr. My time, why? I mean, yeah, it went out, but it came back in. It was inside during shechita of the mother. My time, makro, the pasuk says, ubasar basada, flesh that went out into a field, meaning it left its confinement, left its mechitzos, it left its environment, it left the mother. It is labeled as treifa. You can't eat it. We learn that once something leaves, the basar leaves chutz mechitzase, outside of its confinement. Rashi says this applies to many escapees, like basar of kachim that left the Beis Hamikdash. Anything that's meant to stay within a confined entity, within mechitzas, it leaves, it becomes asr. Such as his hand that left the mother's habitat, Nasr becomes asr permanently. It's irreversible. It's not. Okay, let's take a look at the Mishnah. Right? The hand went out, came back in. Mutar b'achil, can eat it. What could you eat? My love, let's assume it's going on the limb itself. So the hand itself is mutar. Does not become permanently asr. Lo ya uber. No, the Mishnah is speaking specifically about the rest of the unborn. But the hand, once asr, always asr. It's Eiver ben Achai. Because once it left the mother, it can no longer be included. It's no longer enveloped within the mother. It gains its own independence, has its own status. It's like a living limb of a live animal. In which case, even after shechita, it remains as such, it's irreversible. So we thought, my lava Eiver. But the Eiver itself is mutar. No, lo ya uber. The Eiver remains also. Just the uber stays okay. Asks the Gemara, ya uber. If the permissibility indicated in the Mishnah is specific only to the rest of the unborn, so my area hechzira, why pick a case? Why even bother mentioning where the hand went back in? Why is that relevant to the rest of the unborn? Afilu lo hechzira nami. The rest of the unborn would remain mutar even if the hand had not been retracted, had not returned to the mother. You're right. Tuadin afagav leichzira, the same exact halacha that the rest of the uber is mutar would be so even if the hand was not returned. So why mention it? V'aydi de kaboy misna seifa. It was just corresponding to the next halacha in the Mishnah where it needs to mention this idea that it came back, because that highlights the halacha, right? By the head, once it leaves, even though it came back too late. So, on account of that, we mention the return of the hand in this case as well, even though it's not really relevant to the halacha. But I did the safe on account of the next halacha in the Mishnah, that when he stuck his head out, that constitutes a birthing experience. Even though he brought it back in, Ezekiel, it's considered like born, Tanami Reisha. So on account of that scenario, we also referred in the first case, referred to a case of Echzira where the hand came back in. Ask the Gemara. So, the primary focus is the next halacha, V'seifa Makemashmon. So what is the great, the lesson in the next halacha. What are we teaching there? The kivan the yotza roishay havi leido. You're teaching that once the head leaves, it's considered having born. That's old news, Tanina. We already know that. There's a Mishnah in Bechayros regarding a firstborn human. The same halacha. The head leaving the mother's womb is considered leida. Tanina. So we have a Mishnah. Ezehu bechar lenachla ve'en bechar lekayhanim. So we all know that there are two sort of definitions of a bechar. It can pertain to kayhanim, which means firstborn human. Male has a kedushas bechar, needs to be redeemed by a kayin. For that, he really needs to be the firstborn, Peter Rechem, the first one that went through the mother's womb. So the first one that left the mother's womb is considered Peter Rechem. The one behind them, let's say there are twins, is not. There's another aspect of Bechar that pertains to receiving double portion in the father's inheritance. That also pertains to the firstborn, but in a slightly different variation. Rashi brings the Gemara based on a pasuk, Reishis Oinoi. It's the first where the father connects to him. A viable child who the father emotionally connected to and would be distressed upon his death. So that only pertains to a viable child, a viable firstborn. So sometimes you can have one and not the other. You can have the first viable, but he wasn't necessarily the first one to leave the mother's womb. First one was not viable, so that one was technically the first one, but only for pidyon habeh, but not for double inheritance. Whereas a second one no longer is considered the bechar for kayin, but it is bechar for the nachla. Okay, Tanina, lezeu bechar lenachla. Give me an example of bechar for nachla. Ve'ine bechar lekayan, but it's not a bechar regarding redemption to the kayin. Haba. So you have like a twin, right? That really was born number 2. Haba achan nefalim. An eifel is an unborn fetus who hasn't really completed his full term. He's not really considered viable. So that one came out first. That one became the Peter Rechem. And the next one, his twin brother, he's number 2, but he's the first viable. So he came after the Neifel, after the unviable. Even though the first one, the unviable one, his head came out alive. Rashi says he went back in, and then the number 2 came out. So in this case, the first one was technically Peter Rechem. He came through the womb first. And the second one is no longer considered really the first regarding coins, only regarding inheritance. Or suppose this one here, the number 2, came after a bentes, shiatzer shemes. The one that preceded him was a full-term 9-month fetus, whose head came out unalive. So once again, the first one is considered the first birth in terms of the mother. In which case, the second one behind him is no longer the bechar for kain, but is a bechar for nachla. Now let's make a diuk. Let's make an observation in this Mishnah. Time of the Reishi Mace. The reason why this twin brother, the second one, is not a bechar for kain, that's because the one that preceded him, it came out first, and since he was not alive when he came out, Reish Meis, so the second one, at least he gets the nachla privileges, because it wasn't a proper birth. It was enough for Peter Rechem. It wasn't a proper birth regarding viability and nachla, right? So that goes to the second brother. Ha roishay chai. However, suppose number one would have come out with his head alive. Now that would have been considered a full birth regarding all matters, kayin and nachla. In which case, number two that follows, haba achrav, would have no bechar status at all, not for kayin and not for nachla. Haba achrav, the one that comes behind him, bechar le nachla namili havi, he's nothing, not even for nachla. What do we see from here? Birthing of the head constitutes leida, to leida experience. Okay, so that's been established already. Why do we need that halacha in our Mishnah? Once again, that the birthing of the head constitutes an act of birthing. Says the Gemara. Perhaps, there's human and there's animal, different experience, and you have to teach us, this principle by an adam and by a behema. Perhaps you can say Ashminan ba'adam. That Mishnah teaches us this halacha, that the birthing of the head, even if it came back in, but once the head is out, it's considered a birth. Ashminan by be'adam, v'kamash b'lan. And now Mishnah, it's coming to apply it to a behema as well. Behema. Perhaps you can't equate, you can't learn one from the other. It's a different experience, a different configuration. The adam behema loyalaf. Perhaps you cannot learn adam from behema. They praise the behema. Rashi explains. By a behema, as soon as the head comes out, it's open, it's revealed, it's exposed. There are no thighs blocking the area. Perhaps that's considered a birthing experience. But by human, it's different. Perhaps it wouldn't. On the other hand, the behema mi adam le'alfa. Likewise, you wouldn't be able to learn behema from adam. Why? Because a person's head, his face, that has substance, that has significance, a form of a human. So once that leaves the mother, that's considered a full birth. Right? You can't learn behema from an adam. The chashiv, partsuf, the face, the form, panim, the day, the form of the face has chashivas, has significance. So that is sufficient to render it a leida. And by behema, you don't say that. Well, says the Gemara, we have another halacha stated elsewhere that, applies even by behema. Hanami tanina, it's been learned elsewhere as well. Shilya she'atz miktsas, shilya is the embryonic sac. It contains the embryo, contains the fetus, the unborn animal. So even if part of it left the mother, asura ba'achila, and it went back in or whatever, right? Rashi says, no, even if it only partly went out, but the part that's left inside, you can't eat it, you can't eat what's inside, because since the shulya contains the fetus, we have a concern that perhaps in that small section that already left the mother was contained the head of the unborn animal. And once the head leaves, it is born. It can no longer be covered by the mother's shechita. Kesiman. Why? Kesiman vlad be'isha, the same exact indicator of birth by a woman, meaning the protrusion of the head. Kach siman vlad be'behema. Likewise, that constitutes an indication of birth by a behema. There you go. We equate the two. Protrusion of the head is considered a birthing experience. So back to our question. Once we know this fact that Yitzias HaRoish, whether it's by Adam or by Behema, is considered a Leda. So in our Mishnah, again, we have the two parts. We have the hand leaving and coming back, the head leaving and coming back. According to Rav, when the Mishnah says that when the hand leaves, it's mutter, it doesn't mean the hand. The hand remains usr. Because it's like Evem Nachai, it's Pasik, Besad the Treifa, right? It's just the rest of the Uber, which is mutter. So why did the Mishnah have to even discuss returning of the hand? Why is that relevant? Well, on account of the next halacha. The head leaves and comes back in, even though it's returned to its place, it's still considered birth. Well, that's a halacha, that's a known halacha already. that the protrusion of the head constitutes an act of leida. We know it by the Adam, we know it by Behema. So, even in fact, the Mishnah's reference in the first halacha of the hand returning to the mother is dafka. It's needed for its own sake. Yeah, so then, and i.e., that's because, not like Rav, unlike Rav, rather the hand itself is also mutter, and it's only because it came back into the mother, because it went back in, it was there during shchita, it's mutter. So if in fact we'll go unlike Rav, and the Mishnah specifically referred to the return of the hand, so that the hand itself becomes mutter, okay, then we could understand why in the second case of the Mishnah where the head came out, on account of the Reisha, so on account of the previous case, in the second case as well, the Mishnah referred to the return of the head, even though it's such a simple halacha, we all know it from other places, right? Tano seifa to Reisha. Okay? Eloi amars loy the Reisha dafka, loy the seifa dafka. However, according to Rav's approach to the Mishnah, once the hand leaves, it becomes permanently, irreversibly asr. Irrespective of whether it went back into the mother or not, it has no impact. So why even mention that it went back into the mother? So it's not dafka, meaning there's no real lesson here, right? And likewise in the next halacha, there's no real lesson there either. The head returned, who cares? We already know that from the other halachas, other Mishnah, other places that once the head leaves, it's considered later, even though it came back in. El Yamers loy the Reisha dafka. The reference to the return of the limb to the mother in the first case of the Mishnah, the first halacha by the hand, is not really needed for its own sake. V'loy the seifa dafka nor is the reference to the return of the head in the next case needed for its own sake. Why bother mentioning that things returned back? What's the point of mentioning the return? Loy says more no loy lama ubar. We're going to stick with Rav's approach. When the hand left and came back in, the hand remains irreversibly us. The rest of the ubar is what's mutter. Ubar. Ask you a question. What's the significance of the hand coming back? I'll tell you, there is a halachic difference here between when the hand stays out or comes back in. The hand is asr, you have to cut it off. But what about the makom chatach, the cutoff point? Right, the face of the interior part of that limb, which is sort of facing the part that's being cut off. It's exposed to the cutoff part. That cutoff point is asr or mutter. Do you have to slice another sliver along with the arm that left, or is that related to the part inside, which is mutter? So it depends. You know what it depends on? Whether the hand went back in or not. Because if the hand stayed out, the hand becomes asr, becomes ever menachai, treifa, right? And likewise, the part that's facing that, the cutoff spot, the surface that's facing that section of that limb, it's also sort of exposed to the outside as asr. Whereas if the hand went back in, that part is spared. Only the part that actually was outside has to be detached, removed, and it's asr. But the face of the section right behind it relates to the inside of the animal, and it's okay. That's how the Iran explains. And that will be the difference between whether it stayed out or came back in. As he tells us soon in the Gemara later, it's only needed regarding the cutoff point itself. As well. The point here is it's needed for the cutoff spot. So again, according to Rav, the ubar stuck his hand out, the hand becomes asr. But the makom chatach, which is sort of facing that section. What's the status of it? It depends. If it stayed outside, so that part sort of relates to the outside as well. But if it went back in, so that part relates to the inside, because it's not physically outside, right? So it relates to the inside. And merely that section that actually was outside has to be detached. Toshma. We have another akasha on Rav from the halacha, which says like this: Behema makasha leilid. Okay, so the mother animal experiencing labor pains. The uber sticks his hand, brings it back, and then the mother mut ba'achili can eat it. Suppose first they shechted the mother and then he pulled his hand back in. Also ba'achili can't eat it. We'll explain it all in a minute. Now let's say the hand was outside. He detached it. Okay, this time he severed it, he detached it. And then he shechted the mother animal. So the part that he removed is Ever Menachai. Ever Menachai is tummy like an avela. Shebachutz, the part that was outside tummy is tummy. V'asr, you can't eat it. Shebefnim, but the one behind it, inside, is Torah mutter, is perfectly fine. Although it was in touch with the part that was outside, which is metame, but as Rashi says on the bottom line, live animals, live things don't become tummy. Only humans, only Bnei Yisrael, who have a higher kedusha and a special system of tumah that we have even during our lifetime. But a goya, behema, they don't become tummy mechayim. Shemechayim lekibel tumas oichlin. Right. However, here comes the fourth and final case. Shachad as ima v'chakach chatacha. Suppose first he shechted the mother animal, then he detached the part that was sitting outside, the turned on base. In this case, a basar magan avela. The whole basar, everything, the mother and the uber that was in touch with this section that was technically Ever Menachai, that was tummy, got affected by it because it was still in contact after the shchita, in which case it's like basar, and basar becomes tummy if it touched something which is metame. Habasar magan avela, it's like it touched an avela. Not so severe. The fact is, the shchita on the mother did impact what's going on inside, meaning even the hand that was stuck outside can still be somewhat incorporated into the mother's shchita, because at worst it's just treifa, has the status of treifa, and the halacha is that even an animal who's really a treifa, has a real defect, which makes it a treifa, which is asr ba'achila, but if you do shchita on it, it spares it from becoming an avela. It's just a treifa shchuta. What's the halacha of a treifa that was shechted? Rashi says it's only mitamim d'rabbanan. Okay, by kachim. Okay. In any case, Tonimia, let's recap this price. Let's go back to the ratio. The first part said like this: the Uber stuck his hand out and brought it back in. Fine. And then came the shchita of the mother animal. It's permissible. Now, what is permissible? The hand itself too? My lab. Let's assume Aver. It's referring to the limb as well. Unlike Rav, Uber. It's only on the rest of the Uber. But the Eber itself that left the animal stays asr, like Rav. Ask the Gemara, Uber. Well, if the Brisa is referring only to the Uber, which is now permissible, Amos Sefer, let's proceed to the next halach in the Brisa. Suppose you shechted the mother animal and then the hand came back in asr ba'achil, you can't eat it. Now, you're telling me the Brisa, in speaking about permissibility, is speaking about the rest of the unborn. So in this case, when it says asr, it also means the rest of the unborn is asr. Why? Why in the world would the rest of the unborn be asr? Just because the hand went out. Vi ubar, right? Asr b'achila. Vi ubar. If we're speaking about the ubar, am I asr? Why it becomes asr? Says the more you're right. The rest of the ubar remains mutter, of course, but we're talking about the cutoff point. That cutoff point will be asr as well, because, as we explained before, that was exposed, that sort of relates to the section that left. And since it was still outside during the mother's shchita, so the cutoff point as well relates to that. Kedamar of Nachmar Yitzchak, as I'll tell us soon in the next Gemara, it's only needed regarding the cutoff point, as well. Of course, the rest of the animal inside is unaffected. It's just the cutoff point becomes affected as well. It's only needed the cutoff point. Says the Gemara with a avakash. Kashan Ravu says that the hand that went out of the mother remains permanently asur like a treifa. Vaki asur avimi. When Avimi came Bay from the place of Chuzoi, also he came va'isi. Masin Sibiyada, he came along with a halacha. What a brayso. Which is based on the pasuk, which reads like this. The pasuk says, "V'chol behema mafresas parsa," right? A behema with split hooves, v'shesas shesa, shtei proses, 2 hooves, right? Split. Mala sker, right? Behema oisat achil. Now, why does the pasuk first mention mafresas parsa, which is singular, 1 parsa, and then it says shtei proses, 2 proses? What's going on? And Rashi brings that actually in tomorrow's daf, the Gemara will learn, at least according to one version of the Gemara there, from this pasuk that a ben pekua, right, that the unborn discovered within the mother animal after shechita becomes mutter. How do we see it from this pasuk? The pasuk begins with v'chol behema, a behema, an unborn, and then it says later ba behema within the same pasuk. So we learn behema, ba behema, an animal within another animal is covered by the other animal's shechita. Now, why does the pasuk say parsa and then parsois? So once again, Rashi explains that the Gemara will learn from here. Sometimes the whole unborn is permissible. For instance, if it's all inside by the mother's shechita, sometimes not. Sometimes only parasoi. You can only eat one foot. That's speaking where only 1 foot came back in, the other one stayed outside. So if they were stuck out and both came back in, you can eat them both. But if only one came back, one stayed out during the shechita, you can't eat that one. You can only eat parsa. Okay, so back to the Gemara. When the pasuk says parsa, that single leg, parsa means hechsir. Hechsir, if you brought back that single leg, you can only eat that one, not the one that remained outside. Echel. Prasa is hechsir. If he retracted both legs into the mother animal during the shechita, echel, you can eat them both. My love, let's assume, what does the brayso mean? Hechsir parsa, echel. Parsa. If he brought back 1 foot, you can eat that foot. Because it was inside during the shechita, lo hechsir parsa. But if he didn't bring back his foot at all, it stayed outside, echel uber, you can eat the uber. Sorry. Let's go back. My love, let's assume the brayso means like this: hechsir parsa, echel parsa. That if, let's say, he stuck both feet out, and he brought back in only one parsa, echel parsa, you can eat that one. So again, as long as it was inside during the shechita, it's okay. And unlike Rabu says, once outside, always outside. Loi, no, that's not what the brayso means. Brayso means like this: the feet are off limits. Once outside, always outside. Loi hechsir parsa, if he brought his foot back in, echel ubar, you can eat the rest of the ubar. Says the Gemara, hold it. Eat ubar, if we're talking about eating the rest of the ubar, my area hechsir, why bother bringing your foot back in? I feel like so now, even if he didn't bring his foot back in, the rest of the ubar does not become affected by his escapee foot. Oh, here it is. The gain is the cutoff point. Sure, the rest of the ubar always remains mutter, but the cutoff point, that's the questionable aspect here. It's only niner l'makim chatach, and that's what the brayso means. So the unborn stuck his feet out and brought them both back in. So the makim chatach on both legs are okay. He brought only 1 foot back in, so only that makim chatach is okay. But the makim chatach of the one that stayed outside is also because it relates to outside. Says the Gemara. So why does the brayso, why does the pasuk have to speak about parsa and parsois? I mean, we just repeat it out. It's just a redundancy. Makim chatach by 1 foot, makim chatach by 2 feet. It's the same concept. Why present them in 2 different, variations? So why did the brayso have to cite 2 psukim for the same concept? I mean, it's all one point, that if the limb is back inside, you've spared yourself, you've gained the makim chatach. Whether it's 1 foot, 2 feet, what? My love, let's assume the fact that we have a double reference. Apparently, it relates to the limb as well, not just to the cutoff point. You've spared your limb Meaning, if he brought his foot back in, you can eat the foot as well. Unlike Rav. My love, let's assume chad le'ever. One is for the Eber itself. Once it's back inside, it's covered by the Mela Shchita. One is for the Makach HaTach. They'll tell you that unless you came back in, you're going to lose that Makam Chatach. Says the Gemara, no. Let's go back with Rav. Even if the foot comes back in, the Makam Chatach, the foot remains asur. It's just the Makam Chatach that you've gained. So that's one pasuk. So when it says prosois, he brought both legs back in. The legs remain asur, but the Makam Chatach you've saved. That's one pasuk. V'chad, and the other part of the pasuk which says parsa. Now parsa indicates that it doesn't have split hooves. What does that mean? You can have something called a kolot, an animal with joint hooves, not split hooves. So he presents as a non-kosher animal, but he's embedded inside a cow. He was born from a kosher animal. What's the status of that type of animal? So that's the second pasuk, v'chad, and the pasuk which speaks about a parsa, a single hoof, not a split hoof, is coming to teach us that too is okay. L'kolot me para, a kolot inside the womb of a para. Even though he presents like a non-kosher animal with his non-kosher sign, since he's being mothered by a kosher animal, he's okay. V'alibud Rabbi Shimon, and the point here is to highlight that even according to Rabbi Shimon, the Amar Rabbi Shimon says kolot ben para asur. Guess what? A kolot born from a para is asur, irrespective of his origin. If he presents as a non-kosher, he's non-kosher. But that's only once he's born, he's on the ground, he has his own identity. He left the mother. He left the mother's environment. He became his own entity. He looked like a non-kosher, you're non-kosher. But while he's still in the mother's womb, he has no independent identity. He relates back to the mother. Whatever happens to the mother happens with him. Whatever status the mother has, he has. Shari is fully okay. And that's what we learn from the word parsa. Even though he's only parsa, he's not split, but since he's inside, the behemoth is inside the mother's womb, and he was shechted along with the mother, so to speak, right? The mother's shchita covered him too. He's not his own guy. He has same identity as the mother, same status as the mother. It's like a piece of meat off the mother's, animal, and he's mutter. Okay, so this concludes our discussion that relates to Rav's opinion in the sugya. A ben pekur discovered within the mother animal after shchita is mutter, provided it stayed inside. It left, his head went out, even if it came back in too late. He's his own person, his own animal, he needs his own shchita. What if the hand went out, or the foot went out? All agree. If it stayed outside during shechita, it's off limits. But if it comes back in, according to Rav, it's like Ever Menachai, and it gets that status permanently. However, according to Ulo coming up, Ulo Amar B'Yechana, he disagrees. Ve'ever atzmei mutter. If the animal brought his hand back in, and it was inside during the shechita, even the hand is mutter. Amar le Rav Yehuda le'Ulo. I have a question. He says, Rav and Shmuel. Both Rav and Shmuel disagree. The Amrit Havai, they both contend, Ever atzmei asur. The hand remains asur permanently. Amar le says, with all the greatest respect for Rav and Shmuel, for real, he says, Man yoivlan ma'avrod Rav and Shmuel. Who I wish somebody can obtain for us the earth of Rav and Shmuel's grave, and malin and ayin will fill our eyes. We're so full of kavod for Rav and Shmuel, greatest respect. But I have a halacha. Halacha and Rabbi Yechanan. Rabbi Yechanan disagrees. He says, he says, look, all these different types were included in the pasuk basar basada treifel esechelu. Rashi explains. He means hakoil hoyu means anytime there is a mechitza requirement. For instance, karbanos, right? Kadesh kachim, they have to be in the Beis Hamikdash. Kachim kalim, lower level of karbanos in Yerushalayim. Ma'aser sheni, Yerushalayim. The unborn animal within the mother to get, to benefit from the mother's shechita. So all these are meant to be confined in a restricted confinement, right? And if they leave, they become, disqualified. Now, but since we find that only by a curb machatos, this is relates to that story, right? The Parsha Shmini, where Moshe Rabbeinu is wondering, he's asking Aaron HaKohen, what happened to the curb machatos? Why do you burn the goat, the soyer chatos? Perhaps did it become possible? Did it become tainted by leaving the area, by being taken out of the Beis Hamikdash? In which case I would understand, it would justify why you burnt it. That indicates that by karbanos, and only by karbanos, once you leave, you're gone. Bringing it back in won't help it, won't reverse its status, won't rectify its disqualification. But that's specific by a karban. But by a ubar, which is similar in a sense because he has to have that confinement, if he leaves the area and he comes back in, back to square one. The Torah specified by a chatas, which was taken out of its confinement. Even if it came back in, asur, it remains asur. Chatos departed brachman haba. That's specific by a chatas. The Torah specifies that leaving makes it permanently asur. Avol kol mida by other aspects of this halacha. For instance, by the unborn animal, kiba the had or shari. Sure, if it's outside during the mother's shechita, it can't be covered, but once it's back in, it's mutter. Rabbi Yochanan disagrees with Rav. He says the hand that left and came back in and was inside during the mother's shechita is mutter. Meisvei comes a kasha on this point. Basa, basa the treifel sechel. We can't eat basa, which was outside, which left the area. Matam aloymar. Why mention the word treifa? Why is that relevant to this discussion? Could have said basa basada, a basa which is out of the area, which left its confinement, left its mechitas, don't eat it. Why add the word treifa, this sort of descriptive term that relates it to treifa? The answer is to give it permanence. Matam alayma. What's the message? We find in other instances of items, of materials which are meant to be contained within a confined area, like Maser Sheni, Yerushalayim, Bikurim, Yerushalayim. Even though they're taken out of the area. But once they're back home, you can eat them, no problem. They're not permanently tainted by that trip. Perhaps, in this case as well, this is the Uber that we're talking about. If he leaves, the mother, but then goes back in, he can be covered by the mother's shechita. Talmud loima comes the pasuk and adds a very harsh word, treifa. We all know treifa is that defective animal. That's a permanent status. It's irreversible, unrectifiable. My Talmud, how do we learn from treifa? Marabba, just like, so the unborn that left the mother is just like ketreifa. Ma treifa, just like by treifa kimishin, for once it had treifus status. Shiving leheter, it doesn't have permissibility, it's not rectifiable, it's irreversible. Af basar, same thing with the basar out of the mother. Kivish yatzach, once it left the mother's habitat, shiving leheter, you can't rectify it. And that's what Tiyufta do. Tiyufta, it's a refutation on Ula, who claimed otherwise. Ula held that even if the hand left the mother, but once it's back in, he's safe and sound. We have a right from this brisa like Rav. That's the conclusion. But Bekur is only mutter if he was always inside. But if any part of him left the mother, even if it was brought back in during shechita, it's stamped permanently like a treifa, even benachai, which is irreversible. Okay, let's go back and clarify this brisa again. In contrast to Masasheni Bikurim, where even if they were transported out of Yerushalayim, but once they're back in, they're safe and sound and they're edible. Hey, how do you know that to be true? Perhaps Once they're out, they're out. The pasuk says, warns against eating these materials in your cities, outside Yerushalayim, Maser Degancha, to tell you, don't eat them outside. But the fact that it left Yerushalayim on its own would not be a disqualifying factor. If it was taken back inside, mutar, you can eat them. Fine. In Eretz Yisrael, that is a slightly different version of the machlokes between Rav, who considers the hand to be permanently asur, versus Rabbi Yochanan, who says it could be rectified by bringing it back into the mother animal. How did this version go? Rav says, Yesh leida levarim. Once a limb leaves the mother, it's considered like it's born. That hand was birthed and is no longer covered by the mother's shechita, irrespective of whether it was brought back in or not. Versus Rabbi Yochanan, he says, Yesh leida levarim. Leida is the whole animal, or the primary feature of the animal, the head, but just a secondary limb like a hand. It's not considered born, even though it left the mother. And therefore, if it's retracted, if it's taken back inside, he's back to normal. It sounds like they're just repeating themselves. It's just another version of the same machlokes, but there is a nafkamina. So what's the difference between the first version of the machlokes and the second version? You can put out the difference like this. Suppose the hand came out, but not the whole hand. 51%, most of the hand. And 49% of that same hand remained inside. So what happens? According to Rav, it's like the hand was born. I mean to say that if most of the hand was outside, the whole hand is born. We don't split that limb into two. We follow the majority. The hand is mostly outside, it's completely outside, it's born, it's asur. According to Rabbi Yochanan, no. Only that section that was outside would be a problem. Now comes a new question. According to Rabbi Yochanan says there's no birthing by limbs. So what would happen if the impatient uber stuck his hand out and brings it back in? Then sticks out hand number 2 and takes it back in. Until at the end of the day, most of the animal, if you reckon all the limbs that he stuck out one at a time, so in totality, you have 51% of that uber that happened to see the daylight. But now it's all back in. What's the status of that uber? Shall we say, at the end of the day, 51% of that unborn was very outside, although incrementally, piecemeal, but ultimately, accumulatively, he was born. Or you can say, given the hada. Once he's back in, he's back in. And this is based on ein leida leivarim. So each hand, each foot on its own is not considered born. You need 51% of the uber, so that it's considered that he was born. But in this case, it wasn't all at once. It was incremental. And each part on its own, by itself, is not considered leida. Do you just ignore it? Do you discount it? Do you say, well, cumulatively it is 51% of the totality of the uber is considered born? Interesting question. If you'll assume that, once he brought them back in, that cancels each one as it comes back in, and we don't tally it up. What about the next case? His hand comes out, somebody chops it off. Next hand comes out, somebody detaches that. So he never got a chance to take it back in. And the same thing happened. Ultimately, it was 51% of the totality of the unborn. Until he gets to 51%, what's the status now? Shall we say? Ultimately, 51% of the entirety of the animal was outside. Is outside. Or you can say, it wasn't a one shot. We need to be roiv in one go. Here it was incremental, piecemeal. Rashi says this applies even to Rav, that birthing of the hand is considered birthing, but here, by the time the next hand came out, the first hand was not relevant, it was detached. Can we sort of combine them or not? Tashmai comes at Raya. We turn to the next page. Look at our Mishnah. Davar shagufa asr. That was the last and final conclusion of the Mishnah there. That the shechita of the mother animal covers anything of its own guf, right? Zaklal, davar shagufa asr. Davar shagufa asr. Something that had been detached from the mother animal's body, like its spleen, like its kidneys that we discussed in the Mishnah. It's Eiver Menachai. It's a live piece of a mother's. It's Eiver Menachai. It's not covered by the shechita. Davar shagufa asr she'einu gufa mutar, but something which is separate from its own, body, meaning it relates to the unborn child. Whether the unborn child animal is intact or dissected, doesn't matter. It's sort of enveloped in the mother, and it's part of the mother's flesh and covered by the shechita. She'einu gufa is mutar. Now, what's the Mishnah coming to add with this, sort of grand conclusion? She'ein gufa l'suya mai. What's the Mishnah referring to in saying that the mother's shechita covers anything which is separate from the mother's body? My love, let's assume it's covering this exotic case just discussed. My love l'suya kai gavna. To teach us that even if ultimately most of it left and was left outside, doesn't matter. Whatever's inside is covered by the mother's shechita. We don't consider it to have been born. Loi said to no. Perhaps it's covering a different case altogether. Lasu you call it meipara. It's related to that exotic case of a fellow who discovered inside the party, he discovered a kulot, a newborn with joint hooves, who presents like a non-kosher animal. I'll leave it to Reb Shimon. And this is related to Reb Shimon, who says typically it's an issue, but here it's not, because it's still enveloped in the mother during the shechita. The Avagav, although down Reb Shimon he says kolot ben para asur, or kolot the son of a para is asur, that's only when he walks and talks like a non-kosher animal. If he's still in the mother, he's enveloped in the mother's environment and the mother's entity. He has no self-identity. That's only if he is born and asserts his independence as a non-kosher animal. If he's still in his mother's entity during the shechita, totally mutter, irrespective of how he presents himself. Okay, so we don't have really a raya regarding our exotic, scenarios. Okay, in summation, a ben pekua is mutter v'achila without shechita. He's covered by the mother's shechita, provided he was inside and remained unborn. But if the head came out, that constitutes a lady, even if it went back in. Born is born, he needs his own shechita. What about yadai? That came out. Well, if it stayed out, it certainly is asur. However, if it came back in, Rav says it remains asur, like Erev Menachai, which is a permanent, irreversible status, whereas Ula, according to Rabbi Yechon, disagreed, and the Gemara concluded, based on a brisa, that we pass on like Rav, once out, always out. Okay, all the best to you, and Hatzlacha.